Going back to the beginning of your career, Dennis, coming from a musical family, as you do, with your father, the foremost horn player in the country of his day, was it a foregone conclusion that you would be a musician?
Yes, it seemed to be accepted in my family that at a suitable age I would just take up a horn, perhaps, and become a horn player.
Yes. When did you begin your musical training?
I started when I was about 7 or 8. My mother was wise enough not to teach me the piano herself, but sent me to the local piano teacher who was very good. And when I was about 14, my father thought, I suppose, that perhaps it's about time he did something with the instrument, and very tactfully came up to me one day and said, I found an old instrument. Would you like just to see what you can do on it?
Yes.
And so I did, and we've been going ever since.
Had you ever tried to play the horn before? Had you ever tried your father's instrument?
Apparently he put it to my lips when I was 3, and I'm supposed to have blown a perfect note, but I don't remember it. Then my brother does.
And when he gave it to you, you took to it immediately?
Yes.
What was your first professional engagement?
My first engagement was when the Bush Chamber Players came over to this country in 1938 to do their Bach series of Brandenburg concertos in the Queen's Hall, and they engaged my father naturally as first horn and asked him to get a second. Well, he decided to take the risk and engaged me. After that, of course, came the war. I joined the RAF Central Band.
Yeah. Did that mean playing military band music all the time, or did you sometimes get together with the string orchestra to play orchestral music?
Our CO, Wing Commander O'Donnell, was able to get permission to retain at Uxbridge, which was the band's headquarters, about 20 or so string players. And with the certain members of the military band, the wind players, he formed an orchestra, which then gave concerts, toured the RAF stations and so on in Britain, and even broadcast.
Yes. And you travelled all over the British Isles?
All over the British Isles, and to America in an exchange with an American Air Force band, which came to England on a sort of war bonds drive.
Yes. Well, since then, as a soloist and with various orchestras, you've travelled, pretty well all over the world, haven't you?
Yes, including Europe, not Russia, and not Australia yet.
Well, those are still to come, we hope. Well, after the war, what?
After the war, the Philharmonia Orchestra was formed, which I joined, and shortly after that, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, which I also joined.
At the same time?
Yes. And then, of course, work got much too much in both orchestras, and I had to choose between one or the other, and I chose the Philharmonia.
Yes.
I think for a reason that the Philharmonia was inclined to interfere less, perhaps, in solo engagements than the other.
Being a musical ignoramus, Dennis, I'd like to know something about this instrument, the French horn. It has all those frightening coils, something I've always wondered. How long would it be if it was all straightened out?
That's a question I do get asked. It would be anything from about 6 feet to 16, or perhaps a little more or less according to the type of instrument.
Yes.
It was originally a hunting horn without any valves, on which you could only play a certain series of notes, rather like the bugle, and perhaps a few more. Then, of course, valves were added, which gave you a complete chromatic range. And now, of course, we even get 5 or 6 valve instruments.
Yes. When you choose the French horn, what do you go for?
One goes for compromise. One tries to get an instrument which is made out of mellow brass, rather than the sort of brass you associate with a saucepan. But, yes, on the other hand, one wants to get an instrument made by modern techniques and with modern valves, because valves do wear.
Mm-hmm. As a soloist, you've recorded a number of horn concertos by Mozart and Haydn and so on, and also a number of solo works. Is there a large repertoire for the French horn?
The repertoire, unfortunately, is rather small compared with that of the violin or the piano. And it's rather a sad thought that if I go on playing at a concert where I play with the violin and piano for the next 30 or 40 years, assuming one goes on that time, I shall always have to play the same work, which is the Brahms Horn Trio.
Well, now comes the question that must be asked. How well do you think you're equipped for a desert island existence, Dennis? Are you a handyman?
Well, I suppose I'm as handy as most people around the house, mending fuses, painting and cooking and so on.
Cooking, that's useful. A good cook?
No, but providing I have flour and so on, I can make some pancakes.
What are your hobbies apart from mending fuses?
Motoring, principally. But it's a very good hobby to have because one travels quite a bit, and it's usually quicker and more practical than public transport.
Yes, you don't go in for it seriously and go to rallies and that sort of thing?
No.
Now, you've got one more choice to make. That's your luxury object. What one luxury would you like to take with you?
I think I should plump for an inexhaustible supply of motor magazines.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you're not going to choose your French horn to take with you?
Well, of course, the not taking of the French horn would also be a luxury object.
Well, many thanks, Dennis Payne, for letting us hear your choice of Desert Island Disc. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.